Chance, the Miami Heat are probably the losers of the summer.
Gotta
Um,
be.
and I don't know how to. I mean, obviously, I'm a Mavs fan, so I'm not sitting here just trying to sugarcoat anything with the Heat. But when you think about, they had positioned themselves to be the leaders in the clubhouse for Damian Lillard, and that doesn't happen. And then when you look at everything that went out the door for the Heat this off season, they lost Max Strus. Well, they made the to the signing trade. They lost Gabe Vincent to the Lakers. Both of those guys were crucial in their playoff run last year. Udonis Haslam has retired. He didn't play, but obviously he just had a big voice in that locker
Hmm.
room as a player coach, right? I'm sure he'll still be around in the organization. I'm sure his voice will still matter, but they lost a lot. They re-signed Kevin Love. I've heard great things about the rookie they drafted, Jamie Jaquez Jr. I heard good things
Hmm.
about him. They brought Josh Richardson back. They signed Thomas Bryant, and then everything else is kind of just moves around the fringes, right? But they didn't really do anything to actually improve the roster. If anything, it looks like they probably took a step back this year. I know Jimmy Butler is out here in his emo goth mode this year, but do you think emo Jimmy is enough to save the Heat?
The Heat are funny because yeah, it looks like on paper they got significantly worse. They lost, a couple of the key pieces from that, title run, but it's just so hard to doubt them at this point after what they did in the playoffs last year, after what they've done, making the finals 2 out of the past 3 years. And yeah, they haven't won one yet. And then you've got Jimmy B coming up like, yeah, we're going to win it this year. Like, we're not afraid of anybody. And it sounds easy to just laugh at that because on paper they did get worse, but I just feel like Butler and them will find a way to be right back in the mix. They've still got a couple assets to play with. I'm sure they'll make some sort of big move, if not, at the early season. By midseason, they're a team that's contending. They're going to try to win now, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get another core piece. And yeah, they're not on paper at the level of a Milwaukee or of a Boston, but I'm just done doubting the Miami Heat at this point. I think, they should finish as, one of the best teams in the East just because I think Jimmy Butler might be good enough. If he's really motivated coming off that finals loss, and it seems like he is, then we could see even another level where Butler's a guy that typically cruises until the playoffs. And that's when we're like, oh man, like who knew this guy was this good? We might see that for, 75 games this year. So I'm done down in the Miami Heat. I don't think they will win the title per se, but I would not be surprised if we're looking up here in, May and June and all of a sudden the Heat are making another miraculous finals run just because they found a way to do it. So yeah, more of the story, I'm done doubting them.
I mean, honestly, Chance, I mean, I think that's a very fair perspective. I mean, because even when you talk about some of these other things, like we talked about Boston, Boston they have much more talent on that team. However, but Boston's depth is really not any better than what we're talking about with the Heat. So at the end of the day, it's just when we start talking in the playoffs, it always going to come down to who's healthy and where those teams are at that point in time.
Yep.